Do you know that a lot of retirees face financial stress just a few years into retirement, not because they don't have assets, but because they own the wrong ones? Have you ever invested in something that turned out to be a burden instead of a benefit? Many people believe they're building wealth when in fact they're quietly draining it. In this video, you'll discover 10 common bad assets that are making retirees poorer and how to avoid them. Stick around until the end, where we reveal the most damaging mistake that far too many people are still making. 1. The new car. Let's be honest, haven't you ever felt an inexplicable sense of pride when driving a brand new car off the lot? The smell of fresh leather, the advanced technology, the envious looks from others. But do you realize something? The moment those wheels leave the showroom, that car's value drops by 10 to 20%. And this number continues to plummet year after year. I used to think, I've worked hard my whole life. Don't I deserve to treat myself to a new car? But then I realized that car doesn't bring in any income. It only brings expenses. High insurance, costly maintenance, and rapid depreciation. All combined, it's not a gift but a silent debt. Think about Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world. He's been living in a modest home in Omaha since 1958 and has driven the same old Cadillacs for years. With a net worth of billions, he could afford any car he wanted, but he understands liabilities don't make you wealthier. And if you need a more relatable example, consider Dave Ramsey, a famous financial expert in the U.S. He once said, "A car shouldn't cost more than 50% of your annual income." Buying a new car every few years is the quickest way to burn money without getting anything back. I'm not saying you shouldn't own a car, but take a moment to think carefully before buying a brand new one just to satisfy a fleeting emotion. A well-maintained used car can still get you anywhere you want without the financial burden. Don't let your retirement, the time you're supposed to enjoy peace, turn into a struggle to pay off ill-considered decisions. 2. Timeshare. Right after realizing how the new car could silently drain money, I encountered another financial trap, more sophisticated, more enticing, but just as dangerous. It wore the mask of dream vacations with turquoise seas, white sands, wine, and sunsets from a balcony. Yes, I'm talking about timeshares, the right to a fixed vacation time, once marketed as an unmissable deal. At the time, I thought, after a lifetime of work, I deserve a fixed, luxurious vacation spot. And if I don't use it, I can rent it out or sell it, right? But then reality didn't match the glossy brochure. Timeshares often come with a hefty upfront fee. And if you can't afford to pay right away, the companies are happy to offer installment plans with interest rates higher than credit cards, sometimes reaching 15 to 18%. It sounds reasonable, but in reality, you're buying a lifetime vacation at double the price without any flexibility. But it doesn't stop there. Every year you have to pay maintenance fees, and here's the kicker. These fees don't stay fixed. They increase over time, and you can't refuse them, negotiate them, or delay them. There was a time when my maintenance fees were even higher than the cost of renting a similar room on Airbnb. I once tried to sell back my timeshare rights, but here's the bitter part. The market was almost frozen. Very few people wanted to buy into a fixed commitment every year at a fixed time in a location that could never be changed. I saw desperate people selling their timeshares for as little as $1 just to get rid of the burden of annual fees. Looking back, I wish I had chosen to rent a vacation home based on real needs. With thousands of options from Airbnb to high-end booking services, I could have traveled flexibly, changed locations, selected times, and controlled my budget, instead of being tied down by an unfavorable deal. I remember the story of Barbara Corcoran, the famous investor from the U.S. television show Shark Tank. She once shared how, when she was younger, she almost fell into the trap of buying a fixed vacation condo. But then she chose to invest in real estate with high returns, and that decision completely changed her financial life. So, my dear friend, be alert when dreams are packaged neatly in a too-perfect offer. Not every invitation is a good deal. Sometimes what you think is an asset may actually be the shackles that bind your freedom for the rest of your life. 3. Luxury goods. After waking up from the dream of timeshares, I realized another trap was lurking. Not from legal contracts or extortionate interest rates, but from the opinions of others. A silent game that many people, myself included, are willing to play. The underground race to show off wealth through luxury goods. I used to think that after years of hard work, I deserved to reward myself with a Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag, or a custom-made suit from Italy. It wasn't just material, it was proof of success. But then I realized I was trading away financial freedom just to buy a fleeting look of approval from others, people who might glance at me and then forget who I am. The harsh truth is, truly wealthy people don't need to prove anything. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest people in the world, still lives in the house he bought in 1958. Mark Zuckerberg regularly appears in a great t-shirt and jeans. They don't need designer bags or million-dollar watches for people to know they're successful, because real wealth isn't on your wrist or your shoulder, it's in the freedom to choose. I once heard a very simple rule, but one worth a lifetime. If an item costs more than 1% of your total retirement savings, don't buy it. Sounds harsh, but it's the wake-up call that I and many others needed. If you have $500,000 saved for retirement, then a $6,000 watch is a glaring red flag. It's not just an expense, it's a step backward from the dream of financial independence. I once witnessed an old friend, seemingly very successful, with a collection of Hermes bags, Gucci shoes, and a new luxury car every year. But when the conversation turned to retirement plans, she sighed. "I'm not sure I'll make it to 70. I suddenly understood. Many people spend tens of thousands to look rich, while the truly wealthy find ways to stay humble and steady. I'm not saying you shouldn't treat yourself. Life without joy isn't worth living. But remember, financial freedom isn't in the bag you carry, it's in the ability to make choices without worrying about money. Every dollar you spend today should be an active decision, not to buy someone else's approval, but to invest in your own peace of mind. And when you learn to reject superficial recognition, you'll open the door to a truly self-made life. Because, as you know, real success doesn't shout. It's quiet but enduring. 4. Lottery tickets and gambling. After shaking off my addiction to luxury goods, where handbags became a false measure of success, I realized another financial drain was wide open: lottery tickets and gambling. A game that seems harmless, even adorned with the sweet phrase, "a dream of life-changing wealth." But then I had to face a bitter truth. This is the tax of hope. A tax that the poor pay in exchange for the illusion of becoming rich. I used to have the habit of buying lottery tickets every week. Maybe today is my lucky day, I'd tell myself as I handed over a few coins to the seller. But the more I played, the more I realized that hope was slowly becoming an illusion. Distant and vague, like trying to catch smoke. You know, the chance of winning the Powerball jackpot is 1 in 292 million. In other words, you're more likely to be struck by a meteor than to become a millionaire through a lottery ticket. Yet, Americans still spend an average of $400 every year chasing that dream. It might seem like a small amount, but if you invested that in a simple index fund with an average 8% compound interest, you'd have almost $6,000 after 10 years. That's enough to pay for a trip, an investment course, or even the seed money for a small business venture. A friend of mine once became addicted to slot machines. He loved the thrill of winning a few $100s, but he couldn't remember how many thousands he had spent to buy those moments. In the end, he was broke, both financially and emotionally. He told me something that stuck with me. I didn't lose because I wasn't lucky. I lost because I didn't know when to stop. When I look at real entrepreneurs like Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, I see one thing they all have in common. They don't let hope cloud their judgment. They don't leave their future to chance. Kevin once shared that he never invests in anything he doesn't understand. And lottery tickets definitely don't make that list. So, I set a rule. Never let the money I spend on lottery tickets or any form of gambling exceed 0.1% of my total retirement savings. That means if you have $200,000 saved for retirement, the amount you spend on luck shouldn't exceed $200 a year. Instead of putting money into someone else's dream, because, the real wealthy people are the ones organizing the games, not playing them, learn how to build your own dream through concrete actions. Money is not the enemy, but blind faith in luck is the most dangerous trap. And when you dare to reject the illusion of winning the lottery, you give yourself a reward that's far greater: autonomy. 5. Credit card debt. After shaking off the illusion of lottery winnings and facing reality, I thought I was fairly safe on the path to protecting my retirement assets. But then another silent killer was quietly draining my wallet day by day: credit card debt. What started as a convenient payment tool suddenly became a double-edged sword hidden in my wallet. I once thought to myself, I just need to pay up front and settle later. What's the big deal? But here's the problem. When you don't pay off your balance each month, the interest rates stop being meaningless. Do you know the average credit card interest rate is about 20% per year? Some are even higher. That means if you're in debt by $5,000 and don't plan to pay it off soon, in 15 years, the amount you'll owe could rise to $15,000. Yes, 3 times the original debt, just because you didn't pay attention to the fine print. I witnessed an old colleague, someone hard-working and diligent, who, due to accumulating credit card debt over the years, had to use nearly all his retirement savings to rescue himself. That was a painful lesson I never want to go through. I think of people like Suze Orman, the famous financial expert in the U.S. She once said, "You can't build financial freedom while paying credit card interest every month." And she was right. A wise person treats a credit card as a tool, not a source of funds. They use it to take advantage of cashback rewards, travel points, or transaction insurance, but always make sure to pay off the full balance by the end of the month, never missing a day. Imagine this: if you pay on time, no interest, no penalties, your credit card will become a reliable companion. But if you're careless, it will turn into a thief, stealing your financial future $1 at a time before you even notice. That's why, since realizing this, I've adopted an uncompromising rule: no carrying a balance from one month to the next. If one month I can't pay in full, I remind myself, don't spend another penny on that card until the debt is cleared. A small step, but a big impact. Financial freedom doesn't come from one grand decision, but from consistent, smart choices made every day. And eliminating credit card debt was the first step toward reclaiming control over my financial life. 6. Expensive supplements. Right after I cleaned up my credit card debts, the silent killer draining my retirement savings, I thought I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. But no. Another trap was quietly lurking for those of us desperate for a healthy and peaceful old age. Expensive supplements. A flashy promise, but often just an empty shell. I was once one of those people, someone who believed that just a few capsules a day would compensate for any deficiencies in my lifestyle. I once spent nearly $300 a month on products advertised as memory boosters, anti-aging, and immune enhancers. Sounds tempting, right? But then I realized an uncomfortable truth. Many of those products offered no real benefits. They preyed on our fear of illness and desire for good health, selling us dreams wrapped in plastic bottles. I'm not saying all supplements are useless. Some, when prescribed by a doctor for the right condition, can be helpful. But most on the market are just exaggerated, vague claims with no strict testing. Do you know? The supplement industry in the U.S. is worth over $35 billion a year, a number that shows how many people are investing in hope rather than in the truth. So what really works? A healthy lifestyle, something seemingly simple but often forgotten. Walking 30 minutes a day, eating a balanced diet, sleeping 7 to 8 hours, and keeping your mind at ease. These things cost almost nothing, yet offer results far superior to any pill. I remember the story of Dan Buettner, the founder of the Blue Zones concept, regions with the highest longevity rates in the world. None of them relied on expensive supplements. They lived simply, exercised lightly, ate lots of vegetables, and formed deep connections with their communities. Their health came from good habits, not from colorful bottles. From then on, I completely changed my perspective. I learned to invest in things that can't be bought: self-discipline, the will to change, and a purposeful daily routine. Because no pill can replace a sound lifestyle. If you're seeking assurance for a healthy old age, remember this: health isn't in the medicine cabinet. It's in every step you take, every meal you choose, and every night you sleep peacefully. 7. Over-supporting adult children. After abandoning my blind faith in those flashy supplement bottles, I thought I had cut off a money drain for the future. But then I realized something even harder to admit, something more delicate. Excessive love and support for adult children could become a crack in the foundation of my retirement. I used to think supporting my kids was just a natural part of being a parent. Needed a car? I helped. Struggling after graduation? I sent money. Thinking I was adding motivation, I didn't realize that every month $500 slipped away from my account like a drop of water. Over 10 years, that number had grown to $60,000, a significant chunk of the retirement savings I should have kept for myself. I know, when it comes to stopping financial support for adult children, many parents feel guilty, even selfish. But here's the undeniable truth. You can borrow money for college, for a house, but no one lends money for retirement. Unlimited support is essentially exchanging your own future financial independence. I remember Suze Orman, the financial expert, once counseling a single mother who was helping her child pay off student loans, even though she had almost nothing in her own retirement fund. Suze's response was clear. Your child can borrow money for school. What about you? Who will take care of you in your old age? That question struck me. It reflected my own life. I realized that setting financial boundaries is not selfish. It's a responsible act toward myself and my children. When I'm independent, I won't be a burden to them later. When I'm self-sufficient, I'm teaching my children how to stand on their own 2 feet, something money can't buy. I learned to have honest conversations with my kids. I explained that conditional help didn't diminish my love. On the contrary, it reinforced my belief in their ability to be independent. To my surprise, they understood, and that understanding strengthened our family bond. If you're secretly dipping into your retirement savings to support your children's unfinished dreams, pause for a moment. Remember, true love isn't about keeping your children forever in your arms. It's about teaching them how to fly on their own. 8. Whole life insurance. The deeper I delved into my journey toward financial freedom, the more I realized that some choices, which appeared to be absolutely safe, were actually the most sophisticated traps. One of these was whole life insurance. I used to believe that buying whole life insurance was a way to invest in the long-term safety of myself and my family, Sounds logical, right? But the reality was, I was spending $15,000 every year just to maintain a policy that financially didn't provide a worthwhile return. Meanwhile, with a term life insurance policy, I only needed to pay around $2,000 annually, still ensuring equivalent protection during the most critical times. I began asking myself, where is that $13,000 difference going each year? If I invested that money, say, in an index fund like the S&P 500, after 20 years, it could grow into hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's money I could use for retirement, help my kids start their business, or simply live without financial worry. This story reminds me of Tony Robbins, author of Money, Master the Game. In his book, he clearly warns about flashy financial products that are promoted as multi-purpose. They both protect against risks and accumulate wealth. But in reality, the hidden fees, high commissions, and low returns make them a poor long-term choice. Robbins always emphasizes, if you don't fully understand what you're investing in, you're likely investing in someone else's benefit. I'm not saying all whole life insurance policies are bad, but clearly, if I hadn't sat down, done the math, and consulted with an independent financial advisor, someone whose duty is to put my interests first, fiduciary advisor, I would still be throwing away money without even realizing it. Luckily, I learned about the 1035 exchange process, which allowed me to swap an ineffective insurance policy for a more reasonable product without incurring taxes. That decision helped me regain control over my cash flow, so the hard-earned money I made wouldn't get trapped in a complicated financial product I didn't fully understand. If you're considering a whole life insurance policy, stop and ask yourself, am I buying peace of mind or am I paying the price of financial freedom? Don't hesitate to seek advice from independent experts. Don't shy away from comparisons, because sometimes the best thing you can do for your family isn't to buy more insurance, it's to keep your financial future healthy and secure. 9. Luxury home upgrades. After becoming more aware of my financial decisions regarding whole life insurance, I began to take a closer look at other expenses in my life, particularly home upgrades. We often think that a home is a large asset and investing in it means increasing our net worth, but the reality isn't so simple. I once saved for an entire year to renovate my kitchen to match my new lifestyle. The total cost reached $25,000, from imported appliances and high-end countertops to modern recessed lighting. But when I had a real estate appraiser come in to reassess the value of the house, I was stunned to find out that the entire renovation only increased the property value by about $15,000. That meant I lost $10,000 just to satisfy short-term gratification. I wasn't the only one who made this mistake. Many homeowners in the U.S. have fallen for the idea that lavish upgrades are a worthwhile investment. But if you look at statistics from the National Association of Realtors, you'll see that most costly renovation projects, like upscale kitchens and luxury bathrooms, don't significantly increase the value of a home in proportion to the money spent. Smart investments often come from simpler improvements, a fresh coat of paint, balanced lighting, spotless windows, or an updated safe electrical system. I learned this lesson from real estate investors like Barbara Corcoran, founder of the Corcoran Group and one of the sharks on Shark Tank. She once shared, "You don't need to turn your house into a palace to sell it for a good price. What matters is making the buyer imagine they can live happily there." That means creating a cozy, clean, and functional space, not showing off with expensive materials. And there's one more thing I'll never forget. Always prepare 20% of your renovation budget as a contingency fund. No matter how carefully you plan, unexpected costs are certain, from leaking old pipes to surprise permit fees. The result? Instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars for flashy upgrades, I chose smaller changes with a bigger impact, repainting the walls with lighter colors, replacing old lights with energy-saving ones, and adding a few potted plants at the entrance. The house still looked beautiful, but my wallet wasn't as drained as before. Every mistake brings a valuable lesson, and this one made me understand. Every dollar spent should serve real value, not just provide fleeting satisfaction. Don't let the desire to upgrade your life derail your financial path. Upgrade smartly, because true value lies in refinement, not in vanity. 10. A big house. After becoming more conscious about spending on home upgrades, I began to realize that there was an even bigger issue silently eroding my finances: the house that was too big for my actual needs. It might sound extravagant, but I believe many people are in the same situation, living in a dream home yet struggling to pay the price for empty rooms that are never used. At first, I thought more space means more comfort, more convenience. But the reality exposed the opposite. Property taxes skyrocketed, utility bills startled me, and repairs like roof replacements, air conditioning repairs, and plumbing maintenance were like fatal blows to my savings. Every dollar spent wasn't making life better, it was just keeping a void from collapsing. I once believed that having a large home was a sign of success. But then, when I had to clean rooms no one used, turn on the AC for the whole first floor when it was just me reading, I realized I wasn't living in a home. I was burdened with a hollow shell of grandeur. I wasn't alone. Tech billionaire Elon Musk once sold off nearly all his personal real estate to live in a small 400-square-foot house produced by Boxable, because he wanted to simplify his life and focus on more important things. He understood extra space doesn't bring happiness. Freedom and clear life goals do. I started taking action. First, I considered downsizing my living space, not needing to move right away, but I learned to reorganize and keep only what was truly necessary. Then I tried renting out a spare room on Airbnb and was surprised to find that the money earned each month covered most of my utility bills. At one point, I seriously considered living with close family or friends, not because I lacked resources, but because I understood sharing space also meant sharing costs and sharing precious moments of life. Changing my mindset about home also changed how I perceive the value of life. Now I choose just enough space so that every square foot has a reason to exist. No longer do I clean rooms just for the sake of appearance. I no longer feel like I'm serving the house. Instead, the house is serving me. A home doesn't need to be grand. It needs to be warm. A dream life doesn't require luxury. It just needs to fit the heart and the budget. And if you're feeling pressure from the very place you live in, maybe it's time for a simple but courageous decision. Turn your house into a place to live, not a place to bear. Thank you for watching until the end. Your time truly means a lot. Hopefully, you've realized that not all assets build wealth. Some things that seem valuable may actually be quietly draining your finances in retirement. If you've ever invested in something that turned out to be a mistake, share your story in the comments. The community can learn a lot from your experience. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss upcoming videos packed with practical insights and more helpful financial strategies.